All right, welcome back here to the Xfinity Sports Report, your Colorado High School connection. Brian Roth back with you. Time to talk some high school baseball with John Kikowski, Prep Baseball Reports. Of course, a guy who's been on the show many times. John, great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Had a great time yesterday running up and down the Front Range.
Oh, man, it was great baseball yesterday. And the weather, still kind of been a little bit challenging this time of year. It wasn't as warm. But, yeah, it was some good baseball going out there yesterday.
Yeah, they actually got the games in this year as opposed to last year when districts got pushed back 4 or 5 days. All right, we're going to break down 4A and 5A district baseball, talk about the championship series that are upcoming, but let's not forget about Class 3A and show you now the final 8 teams in that championship series in 3A. There's Eaton, 20-1 of the season. They actually lost their last game of the regular season, but breezed through the districts. Kent Denver, Lamar, Faith Christian University, Valley, St. Mary's, and then Manitou Springs. How about that? The only lower seed to advance in the 3A districts. Other than that, everything pretty much going to form. All right, let's go to Class 4A, and things got mixed up just a little bit more there. Number 1, Mountain View is on as we thought. The 2013 state champs are in. Air Academy, a 24 seed. We'll talk about that in a second. There's Valor, Windsor, Pueblo West, Longmont, Erie, and Delta as you look at the rest of the bracket. All right, start with Air Academy. They win the 4A Pikes Peak League, and they get a 24 seed. Now, it was seeded by RPI. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but boy, that's a team that's pretty good, and they're on to the 4A championship series.
If I was one of the top 8 seeds, I would have been a little bit disappointed to see Air Academy showing up at my spot that I was hosting at 24. They're a good team. Bailey Hansen, he's got an upper 80s arm. He's going to Pacific, and Cole McKissick's had a good year. He's going to Appalachian State, and yeah, Air Academy's a really good team, and I'm no surprise that they came out of districts yesterday.
Yep, they had to go to Canyon City, and they knocked off the Tigers, who were the number 8 seed. All right, one of the highlights we showed you, it was Windsor, another one of those top seeds that advance on, and I know you've been a big fan of the Wizards all season long.
Yeah, I like Greenwald a lot, their arm, right-handed pitcher. He's going to Colorado Mesa, and I think he's going to get some looks professionally, too. I know that there's been some teams out there to see him throw. He's 90 to 92. It's got a real loose arm, and he's just really kind of put that team on their shoulders. And Windsor's got a really good team on top of them. So I think that they could be one of the favorites to come out of this and win the whole thing.
Yeah, and how about Windsor beating Weld Central 16-0? Come back, they beat Pueblo Centennial 3-0. So back-to-back shutouts for Windsor. And again, as John just mentioned, Jake Greenwald, he was terrific. Complete game, 3-hit shutout with 11 strikeouts in the victory over Pueblo Centennial. Now, another game that we saw yesterday and saw here on the program tonight. Erie, they get on to the championship series for the second time in 2 years. They go 14-7 as they knock off Niwot. How about Valor Christian? We know what type of team they have. They're young, but they got everything they wanted, first from Ponderosa, then from Northridge.
Yeah, and Valor gets to host yesterday, and in all honesty, I saw that game with Ponderosa. They're a tough team because they play 5A all year in the Continental, and Ponderosa was up 1-0 in the 5th inning, and the freshman Davis Heller was throwing a gem, and Valor pulled that one out, and then I guess they had an extra inning game there right after that, and so Valor's got some really good young talent, some juniors. Freshmen, a lot of sophomores, a lot of them will be back next year. Yeah,
and of course, as you know, as a former baseball coach, of course, at Highlands Ranch, it's survive and advance. And I know it's cliche, but it's true in that district format. That's a single elimination game. I mean, you face a lower seed with one big arm, you could be done.
And a lot of states, other than Colorado, they don't do it the way we do it. It's a very, very hard day to get out of. You're going from 32 teams to 8 in one day. And, that final 16, if you have a good arm or not at all these levels, it's going to be a tough game to win regardless of how successful you've been that entire spring. Everyone's going to have a good arm in that last game, to get through.
All right, so again, one more time, you take a look at the 4A championship series. It's all set. Mountain View is going to be the favorite with Holden Bernhardt, their lefty. He was terrific with 7-0 on the season. Delta, I don't know much about. I don't know if you know much about, John.
I'm excited to get to know about them in the playoffs, so it's kind of nice to see some new teams in there like Delta. Like you said, Manitou Springs at the 3A level, so that's going to be kind of neat to see.
Yeah, they've won 14 straight games at the Panthers. They won that 4A.
They're coming in really hot.
Western Slope, absolutely. And there's 5A. Take a look at that. And I think the one thing that stands out, how many double-digit seeds are now on to the next round.
I'll tell you, a couple of those games are really close. I mean, Cherokee Trail and Heritage had a huge pitching battle. Connor Nankis for Cherokee Trail, really good pitcher. is having a great year, the left-hander, and then the Riley Egloff kid. But that was a battle. Heritage lost 2-1. But Cherokee Trail's a really good team. I think they won 15, 14 games this year.
Yep.
No, that's another one that stuck out. Then they had the Fort Collins, Thunderbirds made it out. Pine Creek, they have a tough draw with Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain's obviously a really good team, and they were a 17 seed. And then, there'll be some conversation going on, I think, a little bit with was the RPI, did it get it right? I'm not too sure. But when the top 6 teams don't advance, there's going to be people talking for sure.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and may as well do it right now. I mean, some of the things that stood out to us when districts were announced. Now, it's easy to say after the districts have been played to say, oh, well, they got this and this wrong. But I think people were looking at that stuff earlier. Air Academy, a 24 seed in the Class 4A, but Cherry Creek is not the 18th best team. Rocky Mountain's not the 17th best team. I mean, you're looking at some of these teams that are high seeds, and Ralston Valley at number 19.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, let's talk about Cherry Creek. They might have seen their RPI, and they might have taken that a little personally, and look what they did yesterday.
Right.
They go out and they win 11-0, and then they beat a Regis team who's the 2 seed, and they 10-run them as well. So I know. I mean, if you're a host site this year at the 5A level, you might be sitting home today kind of a little frustrated. But I don't know if it was because of RPI. I don't know if what they got right. But there were some very good teams that seem to be seated a little bit lower in the 17s, 18s, 20s, and you're wondering.
Well, listen, let's put it this way. Centennial League, I think, is the best 5A conference. They have 4 of the final 8 teams.
Yes.
The co-champion, the regular season in Centennial League, Cherokee Trail, again, we just talked about, got a 13 seed.
Right.
Something is a little bit off there. But again, RPI, first year that they used it, I know a lot of people talked to me about it. A lot of people talked to you about it, saying they just weren't quite sure if it's really the way that we should go. But it is the way that we are going.
And I think, Chas is trying to do some innovative things. And, they've got the new pitch count rule that's implemented. And then the RPI came out in January. And I think that I've heard some coaches talking about how, well, at that point, schedules have been made, this year, and especially out-of-state schedules. But, with that piece, there's going to be a lot of conversation about, okay, I'm sure they're going to want to tweak some things and fix some things. It's the first year doing it, but there was definitely some conversation like, there's some teams like, how is this team in it and this one not?
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. One more thing we want to mention, that Rocky Mountain game. I know you saw the Lobos yesterday, but how good was Brendan Paul? 3 home runs on the day.
What a great story. So I was actually at that game against Fruta in the second game when they played, and he came on and hit a pinch hit home run. And so Coach Bullock started him in the last game, and what did he go 4 for 4 with 2 more home runs? He had 7 RBIs a day. He got 5 straight hits, and he's been a kid who's kind of been getting playing time here and there with them. And that's why I love this sport so much, and that's a really cool thing for that kid, to have such a great, successful day. That's pretty neat.
Those are great stories to hear. A couple more stories from the weekend. Look at Ralston Valley. They hit 8 home runs in their 2 district games, including a walk-off grand slam by Josh Robinson to get them on. And so, again, one more look at that 5A championship series. Who do you like coming out of those 8 teams?
I'll be honest, I'm going to go with the teams that have the arms and the experience. I would not sleep on Thunder Ridge. They snuck out yesterday. Jake Eisler, he can win any game that they play. So Grandview's got good pitching. I like them. Rocky Mountain right now, again, because they swing it. It's going to be, I think it's wide open. I would have a hard time really thinking which one I like the most, to be honest with you, but all those teams are really good. And don't forget about Dakota Ridge, you know. They're kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and they've got a lot of experience back from some success they've had the last few years.
Yep, Jeff LeGault's team making their first trip since 2012 to the championship series. All right, John, appreciate it. We'll see you out at the ballparks next week.
I'll see you next weekend, and thanks for having me again, man.
Okay,
appreciate it.
That's John Kikowski of the Prep Baseball Report. Find it online. It's the source for Colorado high school baseball. All right, back after this to wrap it up here on XSR.